This is video 4 in the series of naming compounds. In this case, we're going to name molecular compounds, which are comprised of two nonmetals. When we're naming these compounds, we're going to use prefixes, such as mono, di, tri, tetra, penta, hexa, hepta, and octa. It's pretty unusual that we go beyond 8, but it's really good that you know these so that you have them at the ready when we start naming these compounds. I think these are some of the easiest ones to name, but unfortunately people get very caught up in trying to use these prefixes in naming ionic compounds. Don't be that person. Make sure that if you identify there are two nonmetals, then you use the prefixes. So, writing names from formulas. So once you recognize that the first atom is a nonmetal, then you name it with prefixes. If there's a metal, don't use prefixes. The other weird exception to that is if you see NH4, which is ammonia, and that's a polyatomic ion, so it's still also an ionic compound. So the example here is SO2. It looks really similar to a variety of things that we saw and that you hear about all the time. So the name of this is sulfur dioxide. Sulfur is the first element, and then dioxide as there are two oxygens. Note that there's the ending of IDE. So we're not dealing with polyatomic ions here because, again, these are two nonmetals and we're not dealing with cations and anions, but the IDE ending still stays. So let's try a couple examples of writing names from formulas. My biggest suggestion for something like these is that you just basically follow what it says. So if I look at P2O5, I'm going to say that I have 2 phosphorus atoms and that I have 5 oxygen atoms. In this case, I'm going to call this diphosphorus. Pentoxide. Now you may be saying that I said that the prefix was penta, but usually when we have an A and an O together in a name, we drop the A and leave oxide because that's what we recognize as oxygen. So the next one is O and F. There's 1 atom of oxygen and 2 atoms of fluorine. So this is going to be oxygen difluoride. Note that if there's only 1 atom of the first element, we actually leave off using the word mono. And that's actually going to kind of show up in this next example, which is NO. There's 1 atom of nitrogen and 1 atom of oxygen. So this is going to be nitrogen monoxide. Keeping in mind that I don't use the mono on the first element if there's only 1 of the first element. So next we're going to write formulas from names. My best suggestion on this one as well is don't fight the system. Just write what it tells you to write. So in this case, I have a prefix of di for dinitrogen and pent for pentoxide. So this would technically be N2O5. There's no ions here, there's no crossing of charges, there's no need to worry about group 1 charges or group 2 charges or anything like that. You're just going to write what it says. So here are a couple more examples. So boron trifluoride. So there's 1 boron atom and 3 fluoride atoms. The next one is silicon dioxide. So SiO2. Fluorine triiodide would be Fi3. So note again, I'm not using any charges, I'm not crisscrossing any positives or negatives or cations or anions. I'm just literally writing exactly what it says. So hopefully, if you notice on the test that you have 2 nonmetals, this will be the easiest part that you have to do.